your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
Good evening, good evening. I'm Stevenson Manners. It is February 23rd, Mashramani Day, a festival to celebrate Guyana becoming a republic, February 23rd, 1970. It is also the eve of the 50th regular meeting of CARICOM heads, opens at the Marriott Dome tomorrow at 4 p.m. They have much to discuss, we have much to discuss, and with us for the second time in the love month of February, Dr. the Honorable Janice Daniel Hodge, leader of the NRP, the cool ruler. It's going to be 90 minutes of talk radio, and we've got so much to go through with the party leader. Welcome again, second time in February.
Good evening, Steve, and of course it's a pleasure to be here. Indeed, it is the second time for the month. I was out for a bit, so I do have some catching up to do. And as you say, each day there is so much happening. Always lots of news and lots of things happening. So it's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to be here again this evening. As usual, you know, I like to take a moment to extend greetings and congratulations or extend condolences. Like I say, it's very difficult to keep up with every single person, every single situation. I know we had a funeral this past week. Lizzie in Brown Hill. Yes, as you know, I grew up in Brown Hill, so I knew Lizzie quite well. I was not able to attend the funeral, but I do want the family to know that, you know, my thoughts were with them. And, you know, people like Lizzie, you know, once in a lifetime you see those kind of people. Kind of remind me of myself, very quiet, easygoing, you know, but can be quite impactful when necessary. And so, like I said, to the family, I just want to let them know that I could not be at the funeral, but my thoughts and my condolences with them. Of course, we also had, you know, some other persons who would have passed. Interestingly, on Saturday 28th, we're going to be having two funerals. Dolores Hendrickson from there in Westbury.
Wilkinson,
yes, and
Sterling Marshall,
Sterling
Marshall, both in St. James.
Well, Sterling's is going to be at the Church of God.
Well, that's St. James. And
yes.
then Wilkinson at Combermere Methodist.
Combermere Methodist Church. So it's going to be a busy week ahead. I cannot be in two places at once, but certainly I do want the families to know that my thoughts and prayers are with them. And of course, we got the tragic news about Margaret Hanley.
Oh yeah.
You know, that is indeed sad. You always hope for the best, and you know there are some situations like those where the end result is positive. Unfortunately, it was not so in this instance, and so actually, you know, the family, it's my family.
I saw you post that, yeah?
Yeah, because Mowbray Hanley, I don't know if you remember Mowbray Hanley.
If I remember Mowbray Hanley.
Well, who wouldn't remember?
The public market is named in his honor.
Exactly. That doesn't mean you remember him, the man.
I know everybody
Yeah.
this man.
Yeah, but he was actually, you know, a very close relative to my grandmother. And so we grew up knowing that, you know, the Hanleys from Government Road are our family members as well. And so I did not really know Margaret that well. I knew the younger ones who were also more around my age. But, you know, in any event, it's a sad situation, and so sad that, you know, that is the outcome. And of course, I don't know if a date has been set yet for Franklin Brown.
Well, I heard it first time for just a brief announcement. I think it was this morning. but no date is yet.
No
I heard
date
it might be a while, I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, some dates have been mentioned, but of course I would not want on the radio to give a date, and that is not the final date. But again, Franklin Brown, I grew up knowing him and his family to be family as well, and that is one of the places where my father, when he would take us driving, we'd go over to camps. There was a bakery there.
Still is.
A
stone oven.
Yes,
Stone oven.
still is.
Yeah?
Yes, and in fact, sometimes when we have breakfast, we get our rolls and stuff, there. It's interesting to see, these type of industrial activities. They still continue to play a part in the community.
I think it's probably only that one and the famous one in Brown Hill that is still operational. People go to Brown Hill to get their hot bread and red butter.
It's a different experience when you get it from those ovens. My step grandmother from Barnesgate, she used to have an oven there in Jessop's. And so we used to look forward to going, for drives, because, we'll get some hot bread and tart and that sort of stuff. So definitely, a time of where we have so many losses and reason to mourn and be sad. And then, you don't hear about the births as much as you hear about, those who have gone on. But it's a path that we would all walk one day. It's just a matter of us understanding and appreciating. And that's why I always try to emphasize, let us love one another and let us treat each other as we would have them treat us. Because at the end of the day, we are all created equal, and that is how it is. But, it's... Despite that, we go on and we understand that God is in control. However things turn out, that would have been His will. And once we believe that He is in control, then I think it gives some sense of comfort to know that this is what He would have wanted. So
an amazing thing. She passed. Well, we don't know when she passed, but word came out on the day that one of her brothers, Cyrilon in Canada, is celebrating his birthday. I saw him post that this morning. So amidst the joy, another trip around the sun, family is in mourning. And of course, I want to reach out to the entire family. Of course, Melan in Canada. And also, I can't name them all. There are a lot of them. But Angela here in Nevis. Angela was a classmate of my dear sister who passed just under 2 years ago, and when we brought her home, she was very, very helpful. Tried calling her this morning. I'd called her before, and we had a good chat. This morning, it just rang out. I think it's one of those things where you don't want to talk.
Right, yes.
You just want to mourn quietly, but Angela, know that we're thinking of you.
Yes, and sometimes we feel that, we are calling, but there's so many other calls that are coming in. And I have experienced that as well, where sometimes you just have to try your best to accommodate as many as you can, but you understand sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming as well. So shifting now a little bit, I know Millie Cornelius had a birthday. And she's somebody who I'm amazed to see her, move around and get things done. And so I did reach out to her and just wanted to know that, we do appreciate her. And to all who would have celebrated birthdays, it's always a good feeling to know that you have another one under your belt, so to speak, and another opportunity to continue to do the good that you do. And as you mentioned at the top, the Guyanese are celebrating
Mashramani.
Always good when you can have an opportunity. I mean, we have a large Guyanese population here, and it is, it's always good to see them come together and enjoy their celebration. and they do so, for the most part, peacefully. They they feel at home away from home, so to speak. And I'm happy that they can feel that way here. We try our best at all times to, consider ourselves in the issues being away from home, and we try to accommodate and encourage them to have those moments when they can celebrate. Of course, independence of any country is always something good to celebrate, and then with so many of them here, it's going to be a great time. I've been to a couple of their concerts, etc., and it's always fun, always a good opportunity to see some who you have not seen for a very long time, and usually at those functions it's one of a lot of joy and having a good time, etc. So just want to say to all the Guyanese who are here, happy independence.
Well, not independence. It's the day on which they moved to a republic. They got independence, if I recall, in the month of May. In 1966.
Yes, to move to
but
republic
they
status.
were the first of the independent countries in the Caribbean under Forbes Sampson Burnham, the great Forbes Sampson Burnham. They were the first, I think, to move to Republican status.
Yes.
Something I'm longing for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, and there are those who would say that our independence is not real independence until you move to, maybe republic status, etc. So, congratulations to all of the Guyanese and friends and families who are celebrating. I wish them all the best, and depending on how things turn out, I usually participate in some of the activities, so I would definitely be looking forward to that. So, yeah, lots of. Do you know if President Ali is going to be? I'm certain he's going to.
I think I read that all the heads are going to be in St. Kitts tomorrow.
Okay.
Several have started to arrive. I think the first was female leader of Suriname. I saw Kamla Prasad leaving today. Of course, it's tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. So Jeffrey Hanley doing the duties, meeting them at the airport, Deputy Prime Minister. I'm hearing all heads will be in attendance. You're going to be at the opening tomorrow?
I will be, God's willing. I think it's an opportunity to, it's one thing when you look at it on YouTube or something else like that, but to actually be there and in some instances, you have an opportunity to share a few words with some of the leaders. That's definitely something to look forward to. I would have met, a few of them before, of the CARICOM leaders, and it's good to be at the opening ceremony and that sort of thing. It would be good to actually be in the room and listen to the discourse and see exactly what they consider to be priority issues. I mean, I could imagine that Cuba is going to be a point of this. I'm only saying from my perspective, and when I look at the position that Cuba is in right now, and the lack of fuel, and how all sectors of the country is being impacted. It brings to mind how much we have wasted opportunities here on Nevis. Because for as long as we have been talking about the need to be self-reliant and the need to be resilient to external factors, and for as long as we have had geothermal kicking around, so to speak, I mean, we are in no better position than Cuba is right now, because the minute the ships stop coming with fuel, for whatever reason, And, you know, we speak about what we call this VUCA world, where there's so much uncertainty and ambiguity, and you're just not certain how to deal with some of the complex problems that we have to deal with. And looking at the situation in Cuba, you know, they did not do anything differently that I'm aware of, but the impacts of decisions made previously and reinforcement has now put them in a position where it is not just a matter of politics, but it's a matter of the health and welfare of
It's a humanitarian crisis.
Humanitarian crisis. And I shudder to think that if for some reason, you know, the oil ships were to stop coming to Nevis, where would we be? Considering that we have had geothermal, we are aware of the capacity for it to power Nevis. Could have been a major game changer, a long time ago, and we could have been actually reaping the benefits now. And so when I hear, the Premier, for example, speaking about what a great game changer geothermal can be, it ought to have been that game changer a long time ago. And, it's good to talk about the possibilities of what can be and what ought to be. And, I listen to the Premier trying to give I call it trying to give a lecture to the CARICOM leaders as to how they ought to embrace and deal with certain problems. And, like I say, talking is cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can talk and have an idea, but when it comes to executing and implementing, I guess that's why he talks so much, because that's all he's really, seems to be capable of doing. And so I would just want us to recognize that we have had a number of missed opportunities, and we cannot afford to continue to miss opportunities. At some point in time, it's going to catch up with us, and we really need to make the right decisions to ensure that Nevis can be put to a path of sustainability and, be done with all of the talking and what could be and the promises. Because even as we speak now, I didn't really intend to speak about geothermal tonight, but as we're speaking about, CARICOM and the leaders and what we can expect, we have to take action so that we can put ourselves in a better position to ensure that our people do not suffer the consequences of our inaction. And so to get back to the CARICOM, I do plan to be there. I would like to see what the discussion would be about. The Secretary of State is expected to be there as well. So we persons like myself, I'm not a head of government, and so I'll be able to get maybe a sneak preview here and there. But I do hope, as CARICOM, they will look at the Haiti situation, they will look at Cuba situation, they will look at the situation with the loss of lives because of the, the intent to do away with the drug trafficking, etc. Because it's one thing when you're trying to solve one problem, but when you create another problem, then that has to be looked at. And I don't think we would want to sit back and wait until it's a Caribbean-wide problem before we take some decisive action. And we know, we speak about these islands being large ocean states, and we're quite dependent on the marine environment for our food security to a great extent. And so We would not want it to be a situation where, our officials, for example, are reluctant to venture out because of uncertainties of what may happen. And of course, our tourism sector, so there's so much dependent on our marine environment. And we see where, the boundaries seem to be expanding. So those are things that I think, ought to be addressed. And like I said, addressed by talking and coming up with some action items. I think that would be, and within a certain time frame as well, as to what may be done. I know it's not as easy to get things done. You have to negotiate, you have to see, what's the driving force, etc. But all in all, I would want to say that I think it's a good thing that the CARICOM Heads of States meeting would be happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so, of course, I think, it would be remiss of me to not take advantage of the opportunity to go across and, there's so much that I think can be learned from being in the same, space with some of these leaders. And so I'm actually looking forward to that opportunity. It's not very often that I look forward to a lot of, these types of meetings, but I am actually looking forward. And it's the 50th anniversary as well, so you expect that there would be a bit more pomp and circumstance going on. So, yeah, those are some things that I think, we can look forward to in the coming days.
It's, I think there's a bit of a misconception. I've heard it on regional media. It is not the 5th anniversary of CARICOM. CARICOM was formed, I think, July 4th in 1973. So CARICOM is, in fact, it's in its 53rd year. But this meeting happens to be the 50th.
Correct, yes.
Regular meeting of heads. Now, let me ask you a very pointed question, because you said you will be at the opening. You're looking forward to meeting the heads, etc.
Being in the same space.
In the same space.
Hopefully I would be able to meet some.
You are the leader of a major political party in the Federation, the oldest political party in Nevis. Prime Minister Terence Chu will be representing St. Kitts Nevis. Was any attempt made by the federal government to reach out to, say, you, to get your perspective on some of the matters which must come up? I will think, for instance, the elimination of the Cuban Brigade. It affects both St. Kitts and Nevis. And are you going to be engaged in any of the sessions? And I picked up this in the Trinidad Guardian today, and I thought it was very interesting. It comes out of Tobago, written by the Tobago correspondent Stephen Nicholas. Prime Minister Kamala Persad Bissessar has invited Chief Secretary Farley Augustine to accompany her delegation to the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in St. Kitts and Nevis from February 24th to the 27th. At a virtual media conference yesterday, Augustine said he has accepted the invitation and will engage local officials on the islands to get a better understanding of their governance structure. This is a first because the Tobago House of Assembly has no remit over international relations based on the law, but we have been invited to participate simply because it is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis, Augustine said. He said the Twin Island nation is a federation, and these discussions will help inform the Tobago House of Assembly as it continues to push for autonomy. He described St. Kitts autonomy laws as progressive and something Tobago could emulate. He said meetings have been facilitated with the Nevis Premier, St. Kitts Prime Minister, and other CARICOM leaders. I want to thank the Prime Minister. She has signaled that we should think as progressive as the people of St. Kitts Nevis in building out our framework for autonomy. Augustine said upon returning to Tobago, he will install a constituent assembly to draft a constitution suitable for Tobago. So Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago is akin to St. Kitts and Nevis. So this man is from the Tobago House of Assembly. He is not part of the federal government, so to speak, of Trinidad and Tobago, but he has been invited. Here's an issue which he hopes to discuss to get further enlightenment in St. Kitts and Nevis. And he says that meetings have been organized with the Premier of Nevis and the Prime Minister. Well, that to me does not complete the equation. You have your perspective as well. Has the Prime Minister invited you, for instance, to engage on a topic like that, or will that be coming once they're on island?
I have not received an invitation to be a part of any group discussion or anything like that. I received an invitation to attend the opening ceremony. And so, you know, I am not surprised, you know, because we see the way that the Constitution has been, you know, used to minimize the presence of the NRP and the opposition, and we've seen the lengths to which the Premier has gone to minimize the contribution of the opposition members simply because because of what is stated in the Constitution. And it is sad that the Premier even went to greater lengths to empower himself further and to not allow for a voice from the major opposition party in forums such as these. And it was interesting to me when I realized, I don't know if you recall, when the Prime Minister, the Premier, and at that time it was Honorable Cleo Stapleton Simmons who visited Taiwan.
End of November,
and
2022.
So it was interesting to observe, under what was the basis, right? Because if the argument now is that, well, as the leader of the major opposition party, but you're not the opposition leader in the House of Assembly, and so on that basis, I am not included in certain discussions, etc. But I guess when it was suitable for them, they extended invitations to others. But one of the things I recognize is that what people say and what people do. I think the Prime Minister is a bit removed from the happenings in Nevis. I think he relies on whomever to provide information to him. And, I am not surprised that an invitation would not be extended as the leader of the major opposition party in Nevis to participate in any of the discussions, because as you have rightly said, I have my perspective. And while I think St. Kitts and Nevis would be advanced with regards to, the autonomy of Nevis and what the Constitution allows for, I do believe that the Premier of Nevis has basically, not capitalized or not taken advantage of what the Constitution allows for us. And we have seen over and over again where the Constitution gives Nevis autonomy over development of lands, for example. And the Premier, went back and legislation, which is one of the reasons why I still say that the SSC is unconstitutional, because the Constitution would have given Nevis autonomy over land development, and here is the SSC legislation that now puts the final authority with the Prime Minister. We see where the Constitution has given Nevis authority over our geothermal resource, and we see where geothermal is now being handled by the federal government. So I'm not certain that the Premier really understands the significance and the importance of having autonomy and being able to chart your development course. And, for whatever reason, whether it's a lack of caring, we're going, backwards in that regard.
All right, I think somebody wants to weigh in early. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the party leader.
Good evening, Mr. Manners, and good evening, my party leader.
Good evening.
Blessings and more blessings.
Mm-hmm.
I am disheartened when I hear you say that you're not going to be actively involved. Because let's start from the beginning. The Prime Minister is the Prime Minister of St. Christopher and Nevis. The Prime Minister knows exactly what is going on in this country. And if you don't know, he ought to have known. We had a local election, and when we finished the election night, the announcement coming from the Electoral Office of St. Kitts, NRP won 2 seats, 2 of 5. And so whatever the other problem that may have arrived after, we know you run on a party ticket, the party carries the weight. There's no question the Premier knows that NRP won 2 seats.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're having heads of government. NRP has shown how much percent of the votes we got. You were left out. Well, why they don't want to leave out the geothermal? So this is very convenient. And sometimes you wonder what they does be saying and what they does be doing, because it doesn't match. 1 minute they don't want to be in Nevis business, but they want this geothermal. 1 minute they don't want to be in Nevis business, but they're going to watch this happen and that happen and the other happen.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad that you're a God-fearing woman. And sometimes it is not in our hands. God is still in control.
Mm-hmm.
He is still on the throne. And my mother used to tell me, I don't able to go with you, but I leave you in the hands of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Let them stay there. God is going to work it out somehow. Good night and good
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, caller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like I said, if you really want to be, in a position where one of the things that I know we speak a lot about here in St. Kitts and Nevis is about being democratic and upholding the principles of democracy, and it's just talk, really. It's just talk, because if we look at, for example, our constitution and our elections legislation allows our people in the diaspora to vote. However, there is no provision to make that practical unless you can afford to buy a plane ticket to come home. So in a way, by saying yes, we everybody has a right to vote, there are obstacles and barriers that would prevent people from voting. And when you feel that it's in your best advantage, then you allow the system to stay. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the electoral office, because the last time that I was here, I spoke about some of the issues, and between that time and now, I have put pen to paper and highlighted these concerns to the supervisor of elections. Now I know some of them would require some legislative changes, but what actually baffles me is how long we have had the National Assembly Elections Act, and how election after election you have different governments, and they all recognize the shortcomings, and yet nothing is being done. And there's something called abuse of incumbency. And when you're the incumbent, you allow the system to operate in a way that is beneficial to you. Now, take for example, when we look at the number of new registered voters, based on the legislation, there's a picture list. Based on the legislation, political parties are not allowed to have the picture list. So when you go to the electoral office to get a monthly list, all you would see a list of names. A list of names and occupation, whether they're employed or not employed. Now, back in the day when you probably could count the number of people, I remember when we were younger growing up, we used to have a competition to see who could have the most car numbers written down, because it's something that it was so few cars that you could have tried your best to write down all of the car numbers. And so, you know, back in the day, the electorate was pretty much persons who you would be aware of. You did not have that huge influx of persons from across the region. So now imagine without a picture list to help identify, and the electoral office is going to maintain that you must identify these people, and if you have an objection, you must serve the objection on them. Well, how are you going to identify, you know, you have a name and it says Steve Manners, unemployed, and he's in St. James's. So where do I begin? But if I go to a shop, or if I go to a church, or if I go someplace and I have a picture and I say, do you know this person? It is much easier for people to say, oh yes, I know this person. And then you can try to make sure that, you know, you have the proper names. So there are some areas where we recognize that the system can be improved, but government after government, and nothing is done. And as much as I listen to some of our NRP supporters who, you know, are frustrated about the inaction at the electoral office, it's really a situation where the federal government, whether it's the AG is going to make an amendment to the legislation on the advice of the Electoral Commission, or you take the matter to court. Now, why would we want to be operating with such a system that with certain amendments to the legislation, we can make the system a lot more democratic, a lot fairer, we can move closer to having free and fair elections? When you look around the region and the advancement that some of the islands are making with regards to their electoral system, you know, I look at us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and there's so much that we want to do with regards to technology. And when it comes to the upholding our democracy and giving people, you know, equal opportunity to vote, we're so lacking. We're so lacking in that area. And so, you know, we have recognized, we have brought the issues to the attention of the supervisor of elections. We would like to see the counting being done at the polls. If we're not going to advance to having electronic counting systems, etc., at least, you know, allow the voters to have some level of confidence in the count at the end of the day. I mean, we speak about the irregularities, and to even get to a court hearing, you realize what the challenge is. And I've heard Dr. Bartlett speak about how sad it is that you are an aggrieved party and you can't even get the support of the court system. The way that the law is set up, you are aggrieved, the case is not heard, and you have to pay costs. I mean, when you as a candidate would see that irregularities are happening, and you want to bring this to the attention, the mere thought of having to pay the costs could be a deterrent. And we know that this is something, we've heard the Premier speak with regards to the SSZ, because he knows that legislation is faulty. He knows that it's not in the best interest of the people of Nevis. And what's his remark? Oh, let them take it to the court. Who's going to pay for it? Right? And so that is the attitude that they have. And so they continue election after election to find ways to where the elections are not free and fair.
Circumvent the system.
and because they feel that it could be costly to challenge it. But I could tell you that we have been writing letters, and we are building our record of the issues, and something must give, because we cannot continue like this. And I often say, if we had observers here for that last election, when the count in constituency number 2 halted for hours, if we had independent observers here, I'm not certain that the outcome would be what it ended up being. And so we have to ensure that we can have these things in place.
All right, let's hear what this caller has to say. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Good evening to the general public.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you in the studio.
Good evening.
The Premier is not the problem. The Premier might be the issue, but he's not the problem. We are the problem. We the people is the problem, because we know what he's doing. We know all what he's doing and what we're doing. We just talking. Until we solve our problem, which is us. We don't say talking. We got to unify. We got to unite. We got to don't know where the blue and the green. And unify as one to get rid of the issue. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, caller. Dr. Daniel Hodge, you said that you look at some of the other democracies in the Caribbean and the advances they're making. My mind come immediately to Jamaica, who I think has the most advanced system in the Caribbean. But when we look at several other countries in the region, I think we have hollowed out democracies. None more glaring than the one which we traditionally look to, because that country is more English than all of us, and have maybe had a better Westminster model, if it's possible to have a good Westminster model, than all of us, Barbados. But the result of the last election, with 30% turnout, before that, 2022, 32% in Dominica, I am saying we have nothing but hollowed out democracies. And I called for the topic of voter apathy to be put on the agenda for this meeting. Now, hear what the theme is. Beyond words, action today for a thriving, sustainable CARICOM. A lot of people think that CARICOM is a talk shop. We'll see where this one ends. But to me, if you're not fixing the basis for election, one man, one vote, and to get a sizable turnout at the polls, we're wasting time. All the other issues says little for us as the advancement of our people or the advancement of our democracies. We can't continue. Mayor Motley is good, but how does she feel tonight after all the celebration that only 3 out of 10 Barbadians turned out on February 11th? But it's not likely that CARICOM leaders will take a look at that, because that is what is keeping them in power and making them kings. Let's take this caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Steve, good night.
Hi, good night.
And good night to the leader.
Good night.
I'm Steve. I will be demonstrating at the opening, the 50th sitting at CARICOM.
Yeah.
And let me show you something. That man from Barbuda, he should ask to talk to the opposition.
Not Barbuda, that's Tobago.
Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
He should ask to talk to the opposition.
Yeah.
Because Janice been waiting, that incompetent boy, Terence Joe, so long to come over Nevis and have a talk over there. Because he playing the game with Mark Brantley, you know. He ain't want no fairness, you know. But we gonna show them where we mean. Set the Calypsonians say what you mean? We gonna show them where we mean tomorrow. From 1 o'clock we will be there. Have a good evening.
Don't go up.
Leader, don't be scared of them.
Don't
Every opportunity make use of it.
Absolutely.
stay on the
People right in your corner.
stay on
And
the
we are asking Nevis people if they have the time to come down and support. I will be there in my destiny short. Taking the ground by storm. Become afraid of them. And they know that.
stay on the line for a bit, caller.
Yes, sir.
Because you said that guy from Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly, should ask to talk to the party leader. Now, I can tell you, when I read that, he was shocked that he was even invited to be a delegation, because to be in that delegation, because
Look who invite him.
because he's not part of the federal structure.
But
I
look
think
who invite him.
I think the onus should be on the Prime Minister of the Federation to decide if people are coming here and they want to talk about the Nevis Island Assembly, its strengths and shortcomings. It should be incumbent that the party leader is there.
That's right. I agree. But we expect anything from the incompetent fellow. He's incompetent. The guy can't even talk. He should be carrying the CARICOM agenda as the chairman. He's a waste. And I would like to get the opportunity to tell him, so he's a waste. You're just a rubber, and a piece of pencil. Have a good evening.
One more thing, caller. One more thing. Because you said you're encouraging the visions to come over.
And support Janice. Support the cause.
Because
we're going to stand up for Haiti and Cuba. It's 5 decades. These people give us health care. We cannot turn way back. That's ungratefulness.
I agree. But I was going to ask Dr. Daniel Hodge this, so I'll ask you, because I haven't heard it. Do you know if a space has been set out for Nevis, that there's going to be half a day?
Well, it ain't come so.
When people over here...
to hear if he asks the opposition in Nevis to come over, but I expect anything from them. They're a certain nasty people. So we don't expect nothing from them. But Janice must come down, and she should. And the 3 girls should come, because it's women time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, caller. You're very passionate about that. Have you heard anything about a carve-out for Nevis? I imagine what we'll see, that maybe when it's all over, a few who maybe have flights back on Sunday, the Premier will get a few of them over, have them at NEPAC for cocktails, and say that has been Nevis involvement. They're coming to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so there has to be a carve-out for Nevis.
Well, I can't speak to that. I don't know what the agenda is beyond the opening ceremony. And so so that is what I know. The opening ceremony, I don't know what the agenda is. They'll be here from the 24th to the 27th. I'm not certain what the agenda is, the 25th, the 26th, and I guess they depart on
We know for sure that on the 25th, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State of the United States, will be addressing the forum. He mentioned Cuba, he mentioned Haiti. I think you have mentioned a few before. What do you think are some of the major issues they should be discussing?
The heads of government. Well, yeah, like I mentioned the issue with Cuba. I mentioned the issue with Haiti. I mentioned the issue of the drug trafficking, and we must look at the boundaries to that that exercise. We don't want it to spread too far, but as far as where we were, CARICOM, we're small island states, and
let's take this caller. Good evening, caller.
Steve,
Aye.
jam down again. Steve and Mr. Daniel, look, that drug problem in St. Vincent and Grenada, that was the engineer. That was engineer. Anytime they don't bring the evidence, that engineer, they ain't gonna work. That is CIA work. Try to get the cocaine in the seawater and get it jiffy to shun the place. Don't bother them. Why they don't bring the evidence with all them men they don't kill and take them in a US court and convict them? Don't take on them things. That's still pure propaganda. Them things don't work in the Eastern Caribbean no more. We wiser than them kind of things. Have a good evening.
Yeah, a lot of write-up about that in the Windward Islands. Some people have been killed off Beckway, and all of a sudden, cocaine washing up on the shores, and people wanted to know how come the cocaine didn't get destroyed.
Well, and if you're trying to prevent the cocaine from getting, it's trying to prevent it from getting to the U.S., so maybe it doesn't matter if it ends up on the shores down here. But like I said, as small island states and the struggles that we have with the climate change and the impacts. I mean, we see what happened in Jamaica with the hurricane, and it seems that Jamaica was pretty much well protected in terms of taking advantage of all of the different programs that would provide financing for rebuild, etc. I know in Barbados, Prime Minister Mia Mottley is quite big on trying to ensure that you have certain clauses in your loan arrangements, etc. So I certainly do feel that a major area of discussion ought to be what can we put in place, and like I said, Jamaica is a pretty good example, in Barbados, to ensure that, hurricanes, we cannot stop them from coming, but to minimize the impacts and to recover from these hurricanes. Because, I mean, as you look at Nevis, and we're reliant on external sources for food, for tourism, for economy, for energy, and so we must try to ensure that we have a formula in place that we can go to. A big part of protecting ourselves has to do with preparation. And how do we build our infrastructure to make sure that it's resilient? And even if we have a Cat 5, we can bounce back. Our ports can reopen within a reasonable time.
Let's take this. Welcome, caller, to your voice.
Good evening, Mr. Manos. Good evening, Dr. Hodge.
Good evening.
I wish you a blessed new year and trust and hope everything will be okay. I would like to know from you, as a political candidate, what do we mean by CARICOM? Could you explain us, please. I would like to know, because the ministers of CARICOM, when they goes to meeting, when they come back, they don't explain to the people what was said, what expect to happen. So I would like you to please give me something on the CARICOM story, because I was told that some meeting will be held in St. Kitts tomorrow, and our Prime Minister is supposed to be a chairman or something, and I would like to know what's really is going on with this CARICOM story, please.
Sure. So CARICOM is really an organizational framework, so to speak, where the islands in the Caribbean, they would have come together under the Treaty of Chagaramas, where they have certain goals and objectives laid out, and they pretty much agree to comply with and to operate in accordance with this document. Now, you may have heard, some discussion some time back when Guyana was being, pursued for oil, and then there was a discussion about us being a no zone of no violence, etc.
Zone of peace.
Yeah, zone of peace. And so it's basically an organizational structure framework that has guiding principles and allow the countries to understand what the overall policy for the area ought to be. Now, of late, there seems to be some concern as to whether or not the countries are abiding by the terms of these arrangements, because it seems that each leader is looking out for their country's best interest. And so is it where, Antigua is going to go look for itself, St. Vincent is going to go look for itself, or are they going to come together and be reminded that if all of the
15
all of the 15 islands that make up CARICOM, if they hold quote-unquote one head and deal with external issues as one entity, then it would be much more impactful than if, for example, you have to deal with an external issue and St. Kitts is going to take its own position, Antigua is going to take its own position. So it's really an effort to try to strengthen the position of the Caribbean islands. We're small, we're vulnerable, but if we, come together as one under the CARICOM block, then we would be much more impactful. That is, like I said, the original intent. And
however, how come when they goes to meetings, when they come back to their various countries or the islands, they don't come out and tell the people what happened, what is going on?
Well, I can't say why all of the ministers don't do. I would say, for example, Prime Minister Drew, I know he usually tries to have, a roundtable discussion when he returns. Not all of the time that they go away it has to do with CARICOM. They still have their own sovereign duties to look after, and so they report back to their individual countries. And if I may say, for example, while we have the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Kitts is the one that actually deals with our foreign issues, our foreign affairs, etc. Right? And I suspect the same for some of the other islands. So, but it's not everything is looked at as CARICOM. There's some issues that some countries would want to look at from a individual perspective. But so when you have some of these common threats, and you would want to be able to have a unified front, then it is important for them to go back to the Treaty of Chagaramas, look at what it stands for, and decide if they're going to come out as one. I mean, I think it was a bit challenging this time, considering that we know early on that there seemed to have been stepping aside by Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago with regards to her position and support for the efforts to minimize drug trafficking, and some of the other CARICOM islands, whether they felt that she took a position prematurely, without any consultation, but those things would happen. So maybe all of those things, maybe at this meeting, she might give some reasons why she took that position at that time. Maybe the Prime Minister may give some reasons why Haiti was excluded from the list of deportees. And as you said, sometimes they come back and they don't give reasons. Sometimes they come back and they give half of a reason, which creates a whole lot of problems that people must deal with. But I think transparency and
Thank you for your input, and I trust and hope that when they come back, furthermore, the opposition party is supposed to be invited to.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the opposition party, NRP, CCM, whoever, as opposition, because we learn something from the status. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
welcome.
caller. It's 26 minutes to 10. We can talk CARICOM all night. They will be having their meetings over 4 days. We'll follow them. And, of course, they normally issue a communique at the end of it. Let's hear from this caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Good night.
Hi, good night.
Cool ruler.
Right here.
good evening.
The party's leader. Let me get some people. Now the next premier. Before me say anything, let me apologize to put that on the program last week. Circumstances.
Okay, we understand.
Yes. Continue through to the Isles of St. Thomas, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Hodge, earlier you may talk about the court and so forth and so. He got something that they call legal aid. I got a system down there.
I'm not certain.
Okay. Would you make one promise, especially to poor people, because we recognize that poor people throughout the whole Caribbean. Well, let me not say throughout the whole Caribbean, because I think Antigua got legal aid up on certain times. Right. So let me say, may fight hard in a month, right? And yeah, right. So would you make one promise? Because poor people get too much advantage around here.
Disadvantage.
They ain't got a good case. Some of them got a good case, but the fact about it, they just don't got them the money for the lawyers.
Yeah,
so then
we see where you're coming
that
from.
they showing. Right. So make one promise to the voters then. Even you have to come from the federal, and you can't do them personally. At the least, you will show and fight, and you would push harder to get that system in place. All right. Mr. Manuel.
Hi.
No one I do why I do, I said to this of the program. But me got something burning that me really want to talk about.
Okay.
And so I can give me just only a few minutes.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So this is what me really want to talk about. Me want the people of Gingerland to really listen to me tonight. I'm not a candidate for Gingerland to hurry to come out to start to work. That when the time come, nobody feels you. Right? Now, the deputy come at the house and the mark last week. He come and he say, Happy New Year So that means at the first he comes for the new year. The deputy no said none time about the ministry, you know. Could you believe it? The deputy no pass to the constituency of why you no plan for what do for the new year. You not forget the whole something. Right? Remember, at the same deputy and one other minister, I don't know how two ministers put together to bring out a poultry and can't get them by the ground. Right? No, he don't even come and even the population of St. Kitts Nevis. Well, you know, to me in charge of the poultry farm, but because of circumstances, such and such and such. So he is sorry not for him put one little chicken on your table for the Christmas. You get the point, mate?
Yeah.
No, he spent two long hours. I talk about 4 seasons. And let me tell you something. I'm grateful in this world. You know, for the 2 hours, they don't even recognize the founder, you know. Are you gonna? You listen to the program?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Man, I tell you, man, look, that they hurt me to my bone. And if the people of Ginger feel even half, they help me feel. I don't think Miss Evelyn supposed to get well, he votes for himself, yes. You can try to say, but I really think he's supposed to get too much of vote for the next election. So Dr. Hodge, the co-ruler of the next premier, please go up to Gingerland and see if I can pull up a representative. Tell him or her that we're going to need to work with it very closely. Okay, then, Mr. Manos, thank you for letting me.
Yeah, well, thank you
All right,
very much.
Okay,
Before the caller, we were wrapping up the CARICOM section. By weekend, we'll know whether CARICOM or carry gone, as one Calypsonian put it several years ago. And when they're gone, we'll be here. The politics of St. Kitts and Nevis will continue. And I have to ask you a question which people have been asking me. A few weeks ago, Sidney Osborne, representing the PLP, I'm not sure of his position, whether it's chairperson or not, apparently wrote to 2 political parties in the Federation, People's Action Movement and the NRP, saying in essence that these 3 should come together for the next election. The party leader in St. Kitts has responded. Now for your response.
Well, apparently the party leader in St. Kitts received the correspondence. I have not received the correspondence.
You have not?
I have not.
Categorically not.
I have not. And so I find it to be rather interesting that someone can put pen to paper. Maybe this is what they desire. Certainly no discussion about forming a coalition or joining with any parties in St. Kitts. And so people have been asking me as well whether or not it is true that NRP is joining with the party, with PAM and PLP. And, you know, we won 2 seats in the last elections, last federal. No. In the last federal election, we did not win any seats. CCM won all 3.
Federal, yeah.
Yeah, in the last federal election. And in the local election, we won 2 seats. And I think as it stands right now, NRP would have demonstrated that we are quite capable of working with any political party in St. Kitts. For the going into independence, you had NRP joining with PAM, Then later on, you had NRP with Labour, even though that at that point in time it was not a do or die situation, right? When you look at the other party on Nevis, we see where they chose not to join when they could have joined and had a big say. You see where they filed motion of no confidence. You see where they dismantled the team unity. And so I do not see the need at this time for NRP to be worrying ourselves about joining with parties in St. Kitts. We have a job to do here on Nevis in terms of getting our candidates ready and fighting to win the elections over here. I mean, I would be very upset if we spend our time having meetings and trying to form coalition, and then we don't win a seat. You know, so our focus is on winning the seats, putting ourselves in a position to win in the next election, whether it be local or federal. And once you have done your work and you can sit around a table, then I think you can you can discuss. I mean, I think it was the last federal election where I would have said that you know, the NRP has no reason to have enemies in St. Kitts. We are prepared to work for the best interests of the country.
Let's take this call.
So, again, Mr. Manners,
Yes.
if you intend to let...
Raise your voice, caller.
However, if you intend to run a campaign election and you win your seat, you have to form with somebody. You have to join with somebody in St. Kitts.
That's when you win your seat, yes.
Yeah, yeah. If you win your seat, you have to join with somebody in St. Kitts to get something for Nevis.
That's understandable, yes.
Okay.
You there or you gone? Oh, okay.
Secede from them. You secede from them and go your way. If you're not going to join with anybody, you will have to secede. I don't know if my comments or statement will be wrong. If you ain't going to join with anyone, you will have to get separation from them.
No, let me correct you. What I am saying is that prior to an election, NRP has to focus on winning its seats so that it can then sit at a table to negotiate what would be in the best interest of, you know, NRP, Nevis, the country overall. But what I'm saying is premature to try to form coalitions at this time. What is important is to maintain open relationship with all of the parties, all of the political parties. But to form a coalition, as is suggested by the gentleman, Mr. Osborne, that is not on our agenda at this point in time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
May God bless you. Thank you, Mr. Manners.
Thank you very much. Well, you can't want it any clearer than that. We've got 13 minutes to go, and we got to look on the ground here a bit. The airport. Let's hear what this caller has to say. Good evening, caller.
Steve, this is Jam Down again. Mr. Daniel, I believe in what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. Because we know that the thief in the election all the time, we know the thief in NRP. So, I would like you to move in that vein. When you win, you decide how we go about it. You have to win seats first. You know,
absolutely.
I support that. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So, Janice, the airport groundbreaking was supposed to be since last day for independence. We see no movement on the hospital That was supposed to be the major priority. What's happening on those fronts? You spoke a bit about geothermal already, but we seem to be hastening slowly, or not at all.
Well, the challenge, I think, has to do with the approach that the CCM government has to development. I mean, I listened to one of the ministers from Anguilla speaking about a project, and he can tell you the exact date of the timelines of what they would be accomplishing. And that happens when you have the professionals involved in the project design, when you...
Let's take this. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Good afternoon, Steve.
Oh, afternoon. It's evening. It's creeping up on 10 o'clock.
Good evening, Steve.
Good evening. You're living happy, man.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yes, the Emir of Ferdinand's request or suggestion.
No. You're talking about
Osborne?
What is his name?
Osborne?
Sidney Osborne.
Sidney Osborne, sorry, yeah. Okay. He is way off of work and he do not understand the position of the Nevis Reformation Party from its inception. We have always gone it alone by ourselves. When the election is over, then we team up with somebody because Nevis cannot form the federal government. I believe that an injustice was done to us when they put this mechanism together, where Nevis will always have to be on the back burner. I believe that the best thing should have been that whoever formed the majority on the island of Nevis should have automatically been a part of what federal government we call it, to give Nevis a real say. For us to have a say, we have to team up with somebody or try to team with somebody in St. Kitts. I don't believe that is the best thing to do, but I am happy that over the years we have carried our weight. Now look at it. The CCM condemned us when we work with PAM. The same CCM condemned us when we work with Labour. But the same CCM turned around and joined with PAM and it was okay. The same CCM has turned around and joined with PLP and it was okay. The same CCM has turned around and joined with the Labour Party because clearly what they have in is a joint arrangement. And that seems to be okay. I want to tell this gentleman and say to all the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, NRP, we will fight on our own. We have always done it. We will win on our own, and on our own time, we are going to do it. The last election, the CCM made it clear that they're going into an election in partnership with PAM. That's their business. Prior to that, they make it known that three of them came together to join to form a coalition. We are not in that, and we will continue to fight on our own. Lady Daniel, continue to carry on with that legacy for the party. And when the time comes, then we'll make a decision as we go along.
Thank you.
Thank you very
caller.
much.
I just want to say, yeah, while we say that, we have to ensure that we win seats, it does not mean that I think NRP is the best party for Nevis, and NRP would be the best party to form the federal government. And so I would have said before, for all of the political parties in St. Kitts who feel that the country would be better with a NRP-led NIA. We are happy for whatever assistance you can provide to help us to get over that hurdle. And whether the assistance is in cleaning up the electoral office or assisting in other ways to make sure we have free and fair elections and to make sure that we can get our message out, etc., I do believe that each of the political parties in St. Kitts has a vested interest in ensuring that Nevis is run by an NRP-led government for the next 5 years. Because it doesn't matter how much you love somebody, you don't want them hanging on to your coattails morning, noon, and night. You don't want them jamming you up in tough positions where, you know, I'm sure oftentimes the Prime Minister has to scratch his head and wonder, how did I get here?
How did I get under the bus?
Well, at least the Premier is saying that we're not going to the back of the bus. But, you know, if there's any bus at all, when he went down to St. Kitts and seconded and supported the SSE legislation, he's the one who gave St. Kitts the bus and the keys. Because without the SSE legislation, St. Kitts has no say about land development in Nevis. So he left Nevis and went down to St. Kitts, seconded the legislation. He and his other two
in the yard
colleagues, you know, voted. And then now that he has given the federal government the bus and the keys, he's saying he's not going to the back of the bus.
Bringing up stories from 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama, trying to be the modern-day Martin Luther King and saying, we're not going in the back of the bus. We're not in the back of no bus. Too many strong leaders on that side, on this side, for that to happen.
Yeah. So and you see, because it is his MO to pass the buck, to blame somebody else. You know, that is the reason why we're having so many challenges where Nevis is not as advancing as it ought to. And when we look at the airport project, for example, you know, just as all of these projects are supposed to be game changers, and once they're done, you know, it's going to move Nevis forward. The fundamental issues with the airport is that to this day, the CCM administration cannot tell you how the airport would benefit the people of Nevis. They are working according to the wishes of the financiers, and the people of Nevis cannot tell you that when this airport is completed, that it would be more cost effective to travel from Nevis. And the expectation is, because they are fumbling the project so much, it's going to end up being more cost effective for people to travel to St. Kitts to get to where they want to go. Now, you're going to tell me that back in 2024, at the budget hearing no less, the Premier proclaimed that by the end of the first quarter, in 2025, the airport would start. Now, see where we are today. One of the things that we have been asking about is the financing arrangement. What is the arrangement with regards to the loan from the private investor? What are the terms? I mean, initially we understood that the NIA was still going to be responsible for paying the workers, and, you know, it just didn't sound like a good deal for the people of Nevis. But what is even more troubling is that the benchmark keeps moving. Now, I was at a meeting this afternoon where the fishermen at Newcastle Bay were told that they would have to relocate. Now, I don't know if you can recall the first town hall meeting that they had at the St. Anglican's school hall.
Yeah.
It was said the fishers did not have to relocate. So obviously they're working from a change in design. They would have told the homeowners along the side of the airport that they would have to relocate. Some of them were even given letters of what their property would be worth, etc. Now we're understanding that it may be good to move them, but they don't have to move. Now, if you're talking about bringing in larger planes and jets and all this noise, because you're not going to be changing the category of the airport, you're saying that people can stay. I don't know if you know the area where, just on the opposite side of Rumors, you know where the Rumors were? Okay, so just on the opposite side, there are some, about maybe 4 or 5 residences there, and you go all the way down to the Queely, Evelyn, Queely and
Sausage.
And Sausage, yeah. All the way down to that area. So the original design, when they started to quote the amount of money that was required, was saying that these people would have to be relocated. Now they're saying that they may not have to relocate. And I suspect that the money is not stretching as it ought to stretch. And so if they're now contemplating leaving those homeowners there to have to deal with the noise and all the pollution from these larger planes that they say that they'll be bringing in, well, that is, a serious situation. And so when we look at the approach that they take, they do not have a complete design. They wake up tomorrow and they change it. They wake up the next day and they change it. So even to finance the project, I'm certain it's challenging. Now, when they said they were going to start the end of the first quarter, the EIA had not been approved. We know in that area, mitigation costs can be significant. And so while they would have agreed with the Taiwanese, I think it's for $19 million, and they received the $20 million to acquire property. But now it seems that the homeowners on that side of the airport are not going to be included. And so then you must question, why $20 million? Because on that side of the road you had residences. You'd have to pay people for their homes, etc. But the other thing that I found interesting was that they're not prepared to assist people with building homes and finding land. Some of the people that they have spoken to, they say, okay, this is a fair market value and we'll give you this amount of dollars. Now we know the cost of construction nowadays is a lot more than it was back then. And so what some persons have been saying is that they don't want to get stuck having accepted what is the fair market value. Then you go out and you cannot find the land that you would want to buy. And then if you had a 3-bedroom home, to rebuild a 3-bedroom home today, whether or not the money is going to take you there. And so it still continues to be a guessing game. And at this juncture, they've started to do some land clearing and these different things. But once you keep changing and changing and changing, and you cannot give definitive dates as to when each phase is going to be completed, you must still have to question whether or not the financing is really in place. And I know you have been seeing it all over, social media, that the financier seems to be in some financial...
Yeah, I read that.
Some financial problems. So the Premier would say the financing is in place, but nothing further. And the same way that the Premier said he sent over the report on December 23rd, and only to realize that it did not go until January 29th.
Maybe it went, but it got stuck in the Narrows.
Well, how can you trust what the Premier says? He says he has financing for the airport. So on one hand, you receive the money to relocate people, etc. But now you're saying the people don't have to relocate. So obviously either the money has been spent doing something else, but we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll get to the bottom of it. And I am saying that there are too many red flags of these keep postponing the starting date. What the design is, who has to move, who does not have to move, you know. And I can recall when the Taiwanese were doing the Pinnies Park, you could go up to the tourism, I think it was on the tourism floor, and you can see a model of what the site was going to look like. CCM government, they'll show you a design today, and by next week, it's a different design. A project of that magnitude.
Caller, you're going to be very quick because we have already gone past 10, and I have one more question for the good doctor. Be quick.
Here I go ask the people in Nevis. Here I have to ask us. What are we going to do? Sit down in Nevis and watch the airport project like at the Alexander Hospital? Now that is the plan. That is the question I go ask us tonight. Good night.
Yeah, well, let me weave my final question for you since we've gone past 10 o'clock. You mentioned that there's a discrepancy. Maybe he'll clear that up at his next press conference. He said he sent the document to Bastia on the 23rd of December. The Prime Minister said he received it on the 29th of January. There's a discrepancy of 37 days in this era of fast travel between St. Kitts and Nevis. The Prime Minister has put a review committee in place. Where are we with Destiny?
Well, rather interesting because we still don't know who the members of the oversight committee is.
For Nevis?
No, Nevis does not have an oversight committee.
Oh, it was St. Kitts.
So St. Kitts, the Prime Minister has said that he's put an oversight committee in place. In fact, they were supposed to receive the documents February 20th, I think it is. So it would be good to see the makeup of the oversight committee, because when you're looking at developing an area such as what Destiny is proposing, I mean, I know you want to be inclusive and include the faith-based ministries and all these, but we really need to be able to see what they're proposing in terms of renewable energy, what they're proposing in terms of water supply, and be able to assess whether what they have put on paper is actually feasible and how that may impact future development for Nevis. And so we would want to ensure that you have, engineers, hydrologists, these different areas of experts that can look at the project holistically and not just look at it from, superficially then. You must really look at it in depth. And to the extent that the legislation does not require the environmental impact assessment at this point, I'm not certain what the oversight committee would be reviewing to come up with their findings, right? So the environmental impact assessment report would have addressed the issues of if they said they're going to be drilling for water, the hydrologists, whether or not they have, the groundwater supply there, how that may impact the rest of the island. All of these things would have to be looked at. What are they going to be doing with their waste, solid waste? How are they going to be dealing with that? Are they going to be having some sort of new technology, some new equipment? We're going to need people who can look at what is being proposed to say whether or not, yes, they may want to incinerate, but the fumes are going to impact the rest of the island or the communities close by. So we would want to ensure that you have an oversight committee that is fit for purpose, so to speak. This is a major project that you're looking at. And I'm only speaking about the environmental aspect of it, but you still have to look at the social, the archaeological, you still have to look at the economics. So all of these, you'd want to have persons on there who can review this report and provide the findings to the Prime Minister, who would then make the final decision. But if we look at the makeup of the Oversight Committee and we don't see the technical expertise that we know would be required, then we are going to have to raise questions again as to, the ability of these people to review. It's unfortunate that in Nevis, the Premier refused to establish an oversight committee. He asked for recommendations, but it was really asking for recommendations without any background information. And so I would have responded and asked for some more information so that I can adequately respond to his request. He never did respond. And so when you ask who would have reviewed the Destiny proposal, it would seem that it was just his cabinet. When you look at this, the development agreement and the financial implications, which team did the Premier engage to assist him? When you look at the legislation and various aspects of it, how did the Premier, was he the only lawyer at the table? Because when you look at Destiny, they had a number of lawyers, with their different areas of expertise. So where was the legal input? Who was NIA's legal advisor then? Let's put it that way, with regards to this project. And so we see where he did not put the independent oversight committee in place, did not engage legal advisors, and if he did and he didn't tell us, he ought to have, said that to us. And so we feel naked that, we are going into this arrangement and we do not have the necessary expertise to guide the NIA. And the Premier feels that that is okay. And that is why they continue to fall into problems and fumble the projects, because the necessary preparatory work that ought to be done, they bypass that. And then figure they could wake up tomorrow and say, okay, we're going to cut a road here, and we're going to do that, and the project is going to fall into place. It does not happen that way. And as the last caller said, we cannot afford for the airport to end up as the Alexandra Hospital. But I must say to the caller, and I always said that this is not something that I would want to say. But based on the system that we have, unless an election is called tomorrow, what is our, that is the rule in government. Unfortunately, I don't think that is the wish of the people, but these, are the people that we have to deal with, and they continue to mess up the projects, and we continue having to live with it. And so I just want us to be mindful, and when we speak, it is not because we don't want the development, but the development ought to be done the right way. And we have seen over and over again that it is the modus operandi of the CCM government to start the projects without having assessed the project properly so that it can be executed. And so you bring in contractors and, what do they do? So we really need to look at the airport closely. We really need to know if the agreement has been executed with the financier. We need to know what the terms of the agreement is, and really whether or not they have adequate financing for the project. because they're changing as we go.
Wow. 12 minutes past 10. I think Calypsonian Stalin said it best. We're groping in the dark. Janice, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you have to go to the Marriott Dome tomorrow for the opening of CARICOM. To all our brothers and sisters from across the region, welcome to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We hope they'll organize for presence on Nevis. To Prime Minister Terence Dew, who is at this point the chairperson of CARICOM, we wish you Godspeed. It's a very difficult challenge in this era of the Donroe Doctrine and all the geopolitics going around. CARICOM is at the crossroads. We wish you Godspeed. And of course, from this media house, we'll be covering the events as they unfold on subsequent programs, of course, on Tell Me and Target on Thursday and Saturday, respectively. It will be all eyes and ears, the Marriott, over the next 4 days. Thank you so much for joining us, and be back next week, I think, with the party leader showing up here tonight and being on the program. We've evened things out, which means that...
Right. First,
yeah,
JD.
This is the last Monday, so going into March, JD Keynes should be next.
We will be back on track. We'll be back on schedule.
Back on track. The NRP always on track.
Yes.
Good night, everyone. To the callers, thank you very much. Those who engrossed listening at home. And boy, if you're in New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, stay warm.
Snuggle up.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.